Welcome into another Locked On NFL Insider Report. Isaiah Stanback, our Locked On NFL Insider, joining us. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens, and we had a busy day in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers making his decision that he's going back to Green Bay. I think that surprised a lot of us, but apparently not Denver because that was a potential landing spot for him. But as soon as they heard that news, they pulled the trigger and they got another quarterback headed their way in Russell Wilson that I was a little bit surprised to see. Was just, I know obviously anybody can get traded at any time, but he's heading to Denver. Isaiah, what were your immediate thoughts?
My immediate thoughts as a Seattleite is I was hurt. Okay, I was hurt
Same.
because I am born and bred in Seattle, Washington. The hometown. I'm a homer no matter what's going on, but obviously in shock. Just like the rest of the country, just like the rest of the world, and especially the NFL. This was probably going to go down as the largest and greatest trade in NFL history, just because of the fact that Russell Wilson is who he is. He is, this dude is a Super Bowl champion, 9-time Pro Bowler, Walter Payton Man of the Year, Bart Starr Award winner this past year. I mean, he is the perfect quarterback whenever you think about who you would like to be the leader of your team. And Seattle just traded him and a fourth rounder away to receive 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, a 5th-round pick, Noah Fant, Drew Lock, and Shelby Harris, the defensive lineman. It sounds like a lot until you think about the fact of how difficult it is to find a very sure thing at the quarterback position. Seattle obviously feels good about where they're at with this trade and obviously all the things that they received. But I think that the party over in Denver is a little bit happier.
And I'm gonna just sidetrack a little bit to Seattle because that is one of the questions here. Is like, what are they kind of doing with this? Is there another shoe to drop? They got a lot of stuff in return. Are they gonna try to get someone else, or are they just going full rebuild?
You know what? Your guess is better than mine. Your guess is better than mine. I'm not sure what Seattle's doing. I do believe that there's been a lot of controversy and a lot of tension between the upper office and Russell Wilson over the past few years. I'm not sure if things stem back to the Super Bowl, but I feel that's when things kind of got shaky. If you go back to those 2 Super Bowl years when they won one and when they lost to the New England Patriots, they were expelling the most amount of money for their offensive line position in the entire NFL. Since then, they've been spending one of the least amount of money in the salaries for the offensive line. And what has Russell Wilson's complaint been over the past few years? Offensive line, his protection. He's getting hit too much. He's running around. He doesn't have that protection that he had, when during those years that they were being highly successful. So that has been brewing. They haven't necessarily addressed that position. Every so often they put Dwayne Brown out there. They put one person out there to give him a little protection just to say that they checked the box. But they haven't totally committed to ensuring that his protection up front. And I honestly think that he just got tired of it.
Obviously, with that being a concern, I mean, we can all understand that you don't want to get hit all day or not be able to do your job well as a quarterback. Is the situation going to be better for him in Denver? Previously in the past, they've had good offensive lines, or at least running backs. But as it's constituted right now, what does Denver's offensive line look like?
Yeah, Denver's offensive line is not much better. Seattle finished 25th in terms of their PFF ranking at the offensive line position. Denver finished 19th. So in terms of Russell Wilson obviously having that no trade clause and him waiving that so that this move can actually happen, seemingly he was ready to move, but the situation that he's putting himself in doesn't appear to be much better. Now that whether that comes from the guidance of John Elway and some of the things that have been communicated over to Russell Wilson in terms of the plans going forward, some of the moves that they may have, we will never know until things actually transpire starting next week when the new year approaches. But in terms of the way it stands right now, not much of a better situation for him.
So obviously they're going to need to make some changes over there as well. And specifically for Denver, that was kind of maybe at least rumored to have been going after Aaron Rodgers. This is a different kind of quarterback. So we're going to see a little bit of a different team from them in the terms of they're getting a great passer in Russell Wilson, but also someone that's mobile. So what is, what's the upside? What are we going to see from the Broncos on offense this season?
It's going to be very interesting. I mean, you have a Russell Wilson who's leaving the likes of Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, some of the most explosive, fast receivers in the league, and now he's going to Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. So it's going to be a little bit different dynamic. He still has a two-headed monster out there. He obviously has a couple running backs in the backfield, Melvin Gordon back there as well. But in terms, again, we have to go back to that offensive line. We understand in this NFL, if you can't block and give your quarterback time, if you can't block and create holes for your running backs, your offense isn't going to be that effective. So even as amazing of a quarterback as Russell Wilson is, the great leader that he is on and off the field, the great community activist, he can't go out there and block for himself to give himself more time. So that's obviously an area that they're going to have to address, and that is going to dictate whether or not how successful they are offensively.
We know Wilson can win. He's a leader. He's a great face for the franchise. Obviously, he'll come in and make a difference right away. But this is a division that's not exactly a walk in the park. So he's coming into kind of a tough spot, and especially with a new franchise for the first time. So how do we kind of see him fitting in? What's the upside? What's the ceiling maybe next year for him and the team?
I mean, you already hear the murmurs. I mean, you hear about the AFC West and how strong it is, how strong of a division it is now with Russell Wilson in the mix, with Patrick Mahomes, with David Carr, with Justin Herbert. Those guys are all in the mix. That's those four quarterbacks that you have. So it's going to be a highly competitive, obviously division. But I'm not sure how soon the Denver Broncos are going to be competitive with the likes of those teams. Well, obviously, all those teams where two of those three teams obviously are playoff bound. The Chargers are going to be right there, I would assume so. I mean, it's coming up season, but the Denver Broncos have a lot of work to do. They do have about $26 million of cap space right now leading up to the draft. They obviously have to have their draft, fill those roles, fill those salaries of those rookies. But after that, I'm not sure how much space there's going to be. But I would assume Russell Wilson knows a lot more than we know at this point in time, and he feels obviously good to go ahead and sign that piece of paper and waive that trade clause. He's now a Denver Bronco. We're going to see what comes of it.
So we'll have to wait and see. It might be a couple of years in the making, or they may surprise us and go on a big run next year, but we'll definitely keep an eye on that. Isaiah, thank you for joining us. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On NFL.